Everybody, welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Thursday, March the 7th, 2024. Hope you guys are having a productive day today. This week for me is going really fast here at the office. A lot of new stuff coming in the door. Just been cranking nonstop with new clients and meetings and calls. Want to start out today's video by saying happy birthday to my dad. He turned 86 years old today. Love you, Dad. We have a lot to cover in terms of news, but before we get to some important stuff, I want to please ask you to check and make sure if you're still subscribed to the channel. I'm seeing these number of subscribers decrease. I know some of that's going to be people deciding to go and watch other stuff and go elsewhere, and that's fine, but usually people just choose to watch something else. They don't actually unsubscribe. So I know I've had some complaints in the past about that happening. Just check to make sure you're still subscribed. Thank you. Appreciate you watching the videos. If you enjoy the content and you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Thumbs up notification for the algorithms, as we always talk about, and the bell notification as well. Again, thank you all again for participating in this channel and this community that we're growing here. Let's start off with a very important article I saw today on Fox Business. And this applies to anybody who has a 9-to-5 job that you do not work for yourself. If you're not self-employed, you are working for somebody else. If you're not self-employed, you do not, as much as you think you have control over your situation, you do not have control over that situation. This article is entitled, Layoffs Surged in February to the Highest Level Since 2009. So again, we're going back 15 years comparing data to get to the point where layoffs were surging this fast. The article says, the pace of job cuts by U.S. employers accelerated in February, a sign the labor market is starting to deteriorate in the face of ongoing inflation and high interest rates. That is according to a new report published today, Thursday, by Challenger Gray and Christmas, which found that companies planned 84,638 job cuts in February. That's a 3% increase from the previous month and a 9% increase or jump from this same time last year. That is substantial. It marked the highest layoff total for the month of February, going back, as we said, to 2009. Quote, as we navigate the start of 2024, we're witnessing a persistent wave of layoffs. Businesses are aggressively slashing costs and embracing technological innovations, actions that are significantly reshaping staffing needs, said Andy Challenger, Senior Vice President of Challenger Gray and Christmas. It says technology corporations bore the brunt of the job losses in February, with the industry shedding 12,412 employees. In total, the tech sector has lost 28,218 jobs since the start of this year. Financial firms followed, it says, with 26,856 layoffs since the start of this year, and a 54% increase from the same period last year. Financial firms. That is a massive increase. If that is your line of work and you don't own your own business, please be careful and have your antenna up and be thinking about alternate sources of income for you and your family if you should get a notice that you're being laid off. It says industrial goods manufacturing companies have also seen a sharp slump in layoffs as so far this year, slashing 7,806 positions. This is a stunning 1,754% increase from last year. Energy companies have also announced 1,059% more cuts than during the same period in 2023. These are staggering percentages. This is another source of layoffs in February was education, which trimmed 6,336 positions last month, a significant increase from the 607 layoffs announced in January and February of 2023. So in education, 607 layoffs last year. This year, 6,336 layoffs in education sector. The top reason cited for job cuts last month was restructuring. We've heard that. Companies blamed stores closing and economic and market conditions for the layoffs as well. It says, in light of the backlash some companies have faced for directly attributing job cuts to artificial intelligence, they appear to be framing this as a technological update rather than an outright substitution of human roles with AI, Challenger said. In truth, companies are also implementing robotics and automation in addition to AI. It's worth noting that last year alone, AI was directly cited in 4,247 job reductions, suggesting a growing impact on the company's workforces. So not only do we have a faltering economy, we have inflation running rampant, we have companies cutting back, but we also have, due to the economic issues, we also have AI and robotics, which are introducing further reasons for these companies cutting back. Again, if you are in a job that is susceptible to that type of a replacement, please give consideration to what your backup plan is going to be. Even if you're laid off, you cannot live on unemployment benefits forever. They're usually only a fraction of what you were earning to begin with. And most people don't have any money saved up for reserves if something were to happen. It says the data precedes the release of the more closely watched February jobs report from the Labor Department, and that's coming out tomorrow morning. Friday morning is the jobs report. It's expected to show employers hired 200,000 workers, following a gain of 353,000 in January. So that would be almost half of the hirings this month or in February as they had in January. That is a decline. Let's see what the job numbers say. You have to take the government numbers with a grain of salt. The unemployment rate is expected to hold steady at 3.7%. We discuss on this show all the time about becoming your own boss, having your own source, let me turn this computer screen off, having your own source of income if the unfortunate happens, if your job gets if you get laid off from your job, if you have an unforeseen health condition or medical emergency that arises where you're not able to work and earn your regular income. And that means if you can't change your 9-to-5 job, I know some industries you just can't do that. You can't just pick up, stop, and go start a new business. I get it. But think about starting a side hustle. Start something small out of your house, out of your garage, on weekends, maybe after hours, and give some thought to how you can supplement your existing source of income for you and your family. Again, do it the right way. Form a corporation or an LLC. It's easy to do. Make sure you shield yourself from personal liability when you're doing that. Start small. Do not take on a bunch of debt. Cash flow the new venture, whatever it is, to the best that you can. And please give it some consideration. We're seeing these layoff numbers get worse. The next story I want to share with you, again, is relating to the flood of the illegal immigrants into this country. We've talked about the impact it's having on public resources, on these cities. It's overburdening the systems. We've talked about how it's increasing and impacting the crime rates throughout this country. We talked about on yesterday's show how it's impacting the veterans. And it's actually causing veterans to be denied or delayed medical care, and the homeless level of U.S. veterans is increasing as the influx of illegals come into this country. Today's article from Zero Hedge is flood of migrant children to put estimated $2 billion strain on the public school system. Something we haven't addressed yet, but this is real. And guess what? It's happening at the expense of your children and your grandchildren who are in grade school. Here's the article. It says, last month, CBO Director Phil Swagel claimed that the influx of illegal immigrants into the United States will boost 2023 to 2034 GDP by about $7 trillion. Some in the government, that's all they care about, is what are we going to do to boost the GDP? And they don't care if it's at the expense of hard-working, tax-paying American citizens. And I tell you, folks, it's not all about the GDP, but some will have you believe that this is, on balance, a great thing. Let me read this to you. It says, the Heritage Foundation estimates in a new report that the influx of migrants is costing American taxpayers billions of dollars, as most of the 470,000 unaccompanied migrant children who have entered the country since 2021 new administration took over have been enrolled in public schools. In fiscal year 2023 alone, CBP encountered 145,474 accompanied and unaccompanied minors nationwide, which, based on the national average of $16,345 spent per student, would increase national education spending by more than $2 billion for 1 year, according to the Heritage Report's fact sheet. The report looked at instances in California, New York, Texas, and Arizona, where unaccompanied minors were sent to sponsors, according to data from the Office of the Refugee Resettlement, ORR, a government agency under the Department of Health and Human Services. It says, for example, in California, 11,121 unaccompanied migrant children were sent to sponsors. If all those children enrolled in public school at the state average of $16,975 per student, that equates to an additional cost of about $189 million for 1 year. The report similarly found that in New York, 8,477 unaccompanied migrant children were sent to sponsors. The state spends $28,261 on each pupil per year, making the total additional cost in taxpayers close to $240 million for 1 year. Of course, they're using, they have to use the worst case, and we have to look at that because that's what's happening in California and New York. And we know, without going into it, we know the politics have a big role to play in this. I wouldn't be surprised if it had a lot less impact at other states throughout this country, in the Midwest and otherwise. But they're, of course, talking about California and New York. The point being is it's having a huge impact on the schools and on the budgets and on the safety of these kids. It says parents should also not have to worry about their kids going to the back of the line in terms of school resources, teacher attention, and academic rigor due to sudden large influxes of illegal aliens into their schools and classrooms. A quote by Heritage scholars and two of the report's authors, Lindsay Burke and Laura Rise, told Fox News Digital. The report also highlights the misuse of school property, classroom mismanagement, and limited English proficiency, which is holding other students back. Of course, if these illegal immigrants can't speak English and they're stuck in an English-speaking classroom with your kids, your grandkids, guess what? How is that going to impact the actual curriculum being taught? It's going to delay. It's impossible. So as an example, Fox News cites the case of New York parents who were furious with city officials after Brooklyn high school students were forced to stay home for virtual lessons so that migrants could pile into the school gymnasium. Other reports suggest that New York public schools have struggled to educate some 20,000 new migrant students. So look, it's pulling on every single metric around this country. All financial resources, security resources, public assistance resources, veterans resources. When is this going to change? Maybe we will have a shift with the upcoming election in November. I don't know how far gone this is and if it can actually be reversed, if the course can be effectively reversed, but I wanted to share it with all of you. Even if you don't have kids in grade school, you might have grandkids in grade school or someday soon, and it is a real problem. We're right about 15 minutes. I didn't want to run too long today. I have a workout in about an hour. I hope that all of you are going to, if you haven't already done so, get your workout in today, get some steps in, do some cardio exercise, walk, get out of your chair, get off the couch, and do what you have to do to start to take your health seriously. Please focus on diet as well. You gotta be calories in, calories out. You lose weight by being in a calorie deficit. Doesn't mean starve yourself, doesn't mean take on some kind of a crazy diet that you can't stick to. It means have balance. It means work out if you're physically able to do so. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just telling you what I do and what's worked for me. Hope all of you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.